My name is Tim Daniel, and welcome to another fantastic, super exciting edition of the Elly De La Cruz show. I'm kidding. This is called Late Night Reds, and we are part of the Riverfront, the elite of Cincinnati media conversations, whether it's just us. My partner here to the right, Chad Dotson, on Friday mornings for you all on the riverfront with his brother Nate Dotson, who is celebrating a birthday this week. So please, everyone, make sure to one, wish Nate a happy birthday, and two, tell him to go to Bucky's because he has never heard of it until I explained it to him.
What was that all about? That's something behind the scenes, but we learned this week that Nate had never heard of Bucky's. What?
Never. I know. Like, I
So
figured
disappointing.
Carlos is from Texas, so I figured when I sent the text that I was like, okay, he's gonna know what I'm talking about, and I figured you would know what I was talking about. But like when I sent the picture, I was like, Grace and I went here today. I got this hilarious picture with my daughter and the Bucky mascot. This is obvious, and she's just like not enthused at all. And I have this like crap eating grin on my face. All like, so it was a great time. My wife and I really enjoyed it. I don't think I'll go back on a Saturday because that was insane. But best brisket I've ever had. Not even gonna lie. But you guys aren't here to hear me talk about Bucky's. And also, if you are here and you are not part of the Riverfront Patreon, please take a few seconds to go to patreon.com/riverfrontcincy so you can hang out with me and Chad on a day-to-day basis. This week we're talking about Michael Keaton coming back as Batman, as well as the Reds going to Kansas City. So we have that going for us. The chat already live. Crazy today, Chad. Everyone is so fired up about this Reds team right now.
Love it, and there's a good reason why. This team is fun. It's what we've been waiting for. I feel like finally we did it. We made it through and reached this point where are they good? Well, maybe not great just yet, but they're awfully close, and I don't care. They're must-watch television every single day now. And I was talking with my son about it because he's blown away because he'd kind of drifted away a little bit because they just hadn't been good. And he's like, "What's going on? What is this?" That hey, we'll talk about this soon, Pat Magoosh. Don't you worry about that, pal. We're going to be talking about that. Sydney, love you. Absolutely. Thank you for Sydney was in the chat before we even began. I love it. I don't know how it happened.
The absolute best.
But it's just the Reds have, 4 guys that could win Rookie of the Year. It's what are we even talking about here? This team lost 100 games last year, and I don't care. I'm here for the fun. So Tim, let's have some fun.
Let's have some fun. And let's start with the most important conversation of the week, and that is week 1 of Elly De La Cruz. And I am well aware if anyone wants to call me out. I know they won on Monday, so I know they were actually 5-2 this week, but they're 4-2 since Elly came up. So that's the reason I had that there. So since Elly De La Cruz came to the big league roster, they're 4-2. Everyone added De La Cruz to their Twitter handle, which was really fun to see. John Sadak came up with a new catchphrase. That ball had a family. We were another little behind the curtain inside baseball here. We were trying to make a partnership with John on a t-shirt before someone else came out with it. So that's okay. We'll talk about the slash line of 364, 481, 636 with a 1.117 OPS, a homer, 4 runs batted in, 3 stolen bases, 7 runs, 5 walks, 2 infield singles that he beat out. And that, oh my God, that run he scored today. So I was watching the game on mute because my parents came and saw us because they could hang out with my daughter for a second. And I looked up and I'm like, oh, darn it, why'd he take off? And then like I see the umpire for a second kind of look, and then like do the safe thing. And I'm like, wait a minute, what? And then I rewind it real quick and I'm like, oh my God, he got in before the tag. I was like, what? How did this happen? And my last tag here says, the game has changed, folks. The game has changed. And this game has changed, Chad, because this is amazing, right? Like, I know this is the second time you and I have had a show this week just talking about this person, this Elly De La Cruz, this like Paul Bunyan-like stories that you heard about in the minors to what he's doing now. It's unbelievable. And like it got better since like we talked on Tuesday.
How is it possible Never got better, but it did. There are a couple of moments. You mentioned one of them, but there were a couple of moments where I really sort of got the full Elly experience, and it sort of crystallized for me how he's going to change the game for the Reds. Now, I mean, we had the home run into the last row, his first big league home run. Amazing. We had that, his first big league hit, the double that was 4 feet above the strike zone.
So silly.
He hit it harder than anyone in the StatCast era has ever hit a ball that high above. Truthfully, it reminded me of, this is for the old guys like me, the 1990 World Series when Barry Larkin took a ball and hit a double. I was like, why are you swinging at that? And he, but Barry Larkin's a Hall of Famer. We had the triple that was crazy. So many fun moments for Elly De La Cruz, but there's two that really sort of stood out for me as to, this is what we need to, this is how we know we're playing a different game now. And one was today, in the win over the St. Louis Cardinals, and he scored the winning run in the 4-3 win. So he draws a walk, which that's an important point, by the way. Yes. Everybody's yelling about him striking out so much, and he did. He had a run there where he struck out, but push and pull, and guess what? He struck out 10 times, and I think he's now walked 5 times. So yeah, we're okay.
We'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. So he goes to second on a ground out, goes to third on a passed ball. Now, the Cardinals, and I hate the Cardinals, but they bring their infield in. And the idea is infield in so we can cut the guy down at home plate if he tries to score. So I guess it was Tyler Stevenson that hit the ball, and he hits it to shortstop Paul DeYoung. And it's not like it was sharply hit. It wasn't like it was a slow roller.
Right.
He hit it right at him. And that's why you bring the infield in, is to cut the guy down at home. And first of all, Elly De La Cruz is so fast that DeYoung has to go as quick as he can. He knows that. So that's one way in which he affects the game, is that players know they've got to rush themselves. And when they rush, they make mistakes. He gets it to home. He's safe. And I'm like, who does that? Who can score on a ball on a drawn-in infield, hit directly at them? The other moment that made me think we have to readjust our expectations was yesterday when he I just wish I could be as handsome as Joe Farsing, by the way, if you're watching.
Same here
on YouTube. The other one was when he comes flying around third base. He nearly catches Jonathan India on this is on Saturday. And Reds third base coach, J.R. House, is putting up the stop sign and almost gets run over by Elly De La Cruz. I mean, almost gets plowed. And he scores. And again, both those included a really good slide where he just reached out and touched his home. But J.R. House is like us. He has to adjust his expectations because it's a whole different world with Elly. He can do things that no other player in baseball can do. And so, yeah, there's all kinds of highlights we could talk about. But those two moments were when I was like, oh, wow, this is about to be very, very special.
I don't say this lightly. I ask you this not to age you, but just honestly as someone who's watched a ton of baseball like I have, and this is out of respect. I literally do mean this, so please do not take this as me being disrespectful by any means. But I ask you, this power speed combination we see of this player, and I understand this is a switch hitter, so this is kind of a different concept. The first person that comes to my mind, and maybe this is unfair, but I am just asking for your analysis here, is Ricky Henderson. It's just the ability to just put a ball in the seats or steal 2 bases on one plate appearance. There's something like it you can get from one or the other. And you've seen it before in the past. I remember like Griffey was very fast, but he was much more well known for homers. Barry Bonds, obviously, but like I feel like Elly is faster than those two guys. Like Elly is almost like Ricky Henderson-esque speed.
He's almost like a hybrid. You have to put like 6 different players together to get the same skill set that Elly De La Cruz has. Gosh, the guy's been in the big leagues for a week. We are overhyping this guy like crazy. But there's a reason for that. I always call him a comic book superhero because it's something that we haven't seen. And when I'm talking comic book superhero, he's not Aquaman. Okay. No. He's a real superhero. Yeah, Ricky Henderson's a great comp that I hadn't thought about. I always compare him to Eric Davis. Now, again, you mentioned for everyone that I am old, and that's fine.
That's not
Whatever.
what I'm
It is what
saying.
it is.
Not what I'm saying.
But the guy I keep thinking about is Eric Davis. And I was only like, 10 years old or so when Eric Davis made his debut. And so, but I saw him, I was a kid and I was mesmerized by this guy. But the power speed combination, the great defense, that's the guy that I keep thinking about. But I don't know that I have a great reference point because I was young at that time. Since I really started following, since I grew up and started following baseball, I don't know. I think you're talking about Ricky Henderson. You're talking about somebody mentioned. I think Sydney mentioned Billy Hamilton in the chat, and he has some of those Billy Hamilton things. I think of Bo Jackson. I mean, I don't know. I just
Sid Nick compared to Roberto Clemente.
Well, that sounds ridiculous to say about a guy that is 21 years old and Pat Magooch, you're dead to me, and has been in the big leagues for a week. But, he has all the skills. He has his weaknesses are things that he has shown in the past that he can, work on. He just decides not to swing outside the zone. I don't know. I'm just so bullish on Elly De La Cruz.
Me too.
I could talk about him for hours and hours and hours, and it makes me smile. And I like when the Cincinnati Reds make me smile.
Yeah, I did too. Mr. Juan compared says Joe Morgan, and look, if he's Joe Morgan, I will be through the moon.
Can you imagine,
dude? So my dad, his favorite player was Johnny Bench. But for me, when I went back and watched stuff with the machine, when they would put the old World Series on DVDs and stuff, Joe Morgan was the guy that I was always like, I have to see what he did. I have to see. So Joe Morgan to me is I don't know if it's fair to say Jesus walking on water, but it might be close. Absolutely love Joe Morgan. So the title of this episode, as you guys saw, is called Ellymania is Running Wild, Brother. So before we move to our next segment, for all the teams in baseball that face the Reds and Elly De La Cruz, I have one quick question.
And what you gonna do when Hulkamania and the largest arms in the world run wild on you?
Serious question.
I don't have an answer.
Yeah. Does anyone?
No.
No one does. So I couldn't have Chad on here talking about the Reds without, talking about the other rookie. Believe it or not, there was another rookie that made their debut this week.
And no one remembers him. No one knows anything about him because of the Ellymania.
And he was absolutely tremendous in his first two starts. And Chad, I'm not even going to steal this segment from you. Andrew frickin' Abbott.
All right, let me go here. First of all, someone mentioned the cap that I'm wearing today. The cap is the University of Virginia College World Series, Omaha. The University of Virginia Cavaliers today qualified once again for the sixth time in the last, how many years? I don't know, but for the College World Series. Well, Andrew Abbott, look, I don't talk much on, I joke about UVA on my show, and I bring them up far too much, but it's sort of a shtick, But Andrew, I watched them a lot. I watched the UVA baseball a lot. And a couple of years ago, I'm watching Andrew Abbott in the College World Series, and he pitches against Tennessee and just dominating. He's one of the best. Actually, he and Sean Doolittle, another former Red, are the two best pitchers I've ever seen at UVA. And so, yes, Pat Magooch, Tom Glavine. He's got some serious Tom Glavine vibes. But I did not talk much about Andrew Abbott after he was drafted by the Reds. I was happy, and I mentioned it, but I don't know. I overrate those guys, so I need to be careful. Andrew Abbott, through his first two starts, the dude has not given up a single run. He looks like he drives a Trans Am, which is awesome. Hey, Virginia for the win, baby. That's how we roll, Virginia.
Yeah,
yeah. I don't know. I don't know what else to say about the guy. Tim and I were talking before we went live here, and if it weren't for this guy, Elly De La Cruz, I think right now Reds fans would be going nuts talking about Andrew Abbott. And it's seemingly you don't really hear much about him, because, which I get. You got Elly De La Cruz, you got Matt McLain, but this guy has what I saw in college. You never know if it's going to translate. But every time he took the mound in college, you just got the sense that the moment was never too big for him, that he knew what he could do, super confident. And that's what I've seen the first two starts. So I'm interested to hear what you have to say about Andrew Abbott, Tim, because I never know if my judgments about these UVA guys are correct. But I've been extremely impressed, and he's part of the big three now that we've talked about: Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, and Graham Ashcraft. Why don't we put Andrew Abbott in there? It's a big four.
Hey, I agree. And if Chase Petty wants to join in that here in the next couple of years as well, sign me up, because I freaking love that kid. And he's only like 14 years old, throwing 97 miles an hour normally. So that's pretty solid. I'm very, very impressed with Andrew Abbott so far. I think that you see the ability of, and like, you definitely have seen, like, in the first start, I'm not going to fault him for a couple walks and kind of having a little, have trouble finding spots. Dude's probably like got nothing but adrenaline going through his body at that moment. Adrenaline and Gatorade, probably. But once he settles down, locates his fastball, it's just a totally different guy. And then yesterday, I know the Cardinals are struggling and they're not having the year that a lot of us thought they would, but
Sorry, I love that. I love that sentence.
Wilson Contreras, Paul Goldschmidt, and Nolan Arenado, Dylan Carlson, Tommy Edman. That's still a pretty solid lineup that he's just like, all right, put whoever you want in the box. Once I see these guys once, I know what to do next. And I was really impressed. I loved his dad, by the way, during yesterday's game. He was so great when he's like, I knew he'd settle down. Like, that was so cool. But yeah, I'm very impressed. I want to see more. I'm really, really excited to see how he pitches against the Astros this weekend, because, we all know that is a phenomenal lineup. I mean, Yordan's going to be out, it looks like, which kind of sucks for baseball wise, because I don't know how you feel. I love Yordan Alvarez. I think he's just so much fun to watch. But he's still going to be facing the Alex Bregmans, hopefully the Jose Altuves. He's been out of the lineup as well. But seeing him go against like a world-class lineup like that, I am so excited. And if it doesn't go well, so be it. It's how many teams is he going to face that good, top to bottom in the order. But he's also going to like be in a ballpark that's probably not super friendly. So he's going to learn a lot of like where to locate his pitches. We are very familiar with that ballpark from their NL Central days. But yeah, I'm so stoked to see what more we get from him. And I think this matchup against the Astros this weekend is going to be so fun.
No, I agree. And that's one of the things that people get frustrated with, the Hunter Greens and the Elly De La Cruzes and all these guys that Matt McLain, although he's not really ever struggled, but because, they come up, I know, right? They come up and they do pitch well, and then they struggle, and they pitch well and they struggle. But that's baseball. That's what it is with the rookie pitcher, especially. You have to learn to adjust. And so Andrew Abbott's going to have some moments where he's going to get smacked around a little bit. Mm-hmm. But what we know about Andrew Abbott is that he graduated from the University of Virginia, which means that he is incredibly smart, because anyone that graduated from the University of Virginia is just like crazy smart, with one exception. I'll let you decide who that is. But no, I'm with you. Seeing how he pitches against an elite lineup, and it's actually, if he gets smacked around a little bit, that's actually not necessarily a bad thing, because we get to see how he responds. And so, I don't know. I don't think Abbott ever goes back to AAA. I think he's here to stay, and that's actually something that it was like I hoped for. But if we talked before the season and we said, all right, we have the big three, and Lodolo, injury questions, Ashcraft, maybe a conversation we need to have there. But if you'd have told me that Abbott would join that group by June, I would have been like, how is this even possible? So, and this is one thing that I think we need in the coming weeks need to talk about, is how, I don't know if it's Nick Kroll gets the credit for this or whatever, but a lot of these guys are arriving earlier than I ever would have expected. And
absolutely.
It's kind of supercharged by, I don't know about expectations, but my hopes for this team. So I don't know. I'm excited. Yes, Sidney Price, the exception is me. How dare you? I'm the only dumb guy that ever graduated from UVA, except for Dick Williams, former Reds president Dick Williams. Both of us graduated from UVA.
So at pick 7 in this upcoming draft, are you just like hoping and praying that Kyle Teal is sitting there for us?
No.
Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, I'd love to get Kyle Teal, but the guy I really want from this year's UVA team is Jake Geloff. Jake Geloff, whose brother is in the A's organization, just broke the UVA career and single season home run records. That guy is a future Major League Baseball superstar. But now Kyle Teal is maybe the best defensive catcher I've ever seen at UVA. So, okay, whatever. Either one. I'll take either one.
Yeah, I know a lot of people, and don't get mad at me, are mocking that kid from Wake Forest, the pitcher, to the Reds at 7. I guess he's really, really good. He's like their Friday starter.
Yeah. Wake Forest is a good program. They did produce Stuart Fairchild. But I would prefer I'd prefer to have a Cavalier.
Yeah. I'll take whatever can help the ball club. Let's keep talking about these rookies. Oh my God. How many times we had these many rookies to talk about? So this week, those first 2 Elly De La Cruz games, the days after the Andrew Abbott games, Will Benson and Matt McLain laid their stake on this ball club and said, don't you dare forget about us when you talk about Spencer Steer and Elly De La Cruz. Matt McLain obviously hits the walk-off on the Tuesday game, which was amazing. And then Will Benson hits like the most like well-deserved home run, I think, of any player maybe ever in Reds history, because he is a guy that struggled so much when he came up to start the year. And you and I have been very, very pro Will Benson since he was acquired right before spring training. And, so since he came back, his strikeout rate has gone down so much. He's been so much more patient. He's making content. He's getting hot. Like Sidney says, he is getting in fuego. And, like today he has that play in the bottom of the first inning where the ball goes over his head. He doesn't read it very well. He makes up for it. He's a guy that he wants to help his team out. Not to mention he hits his first home run of his big league career the same night Elly hits his first home run of his big league career. And also, so I believe you, like me, Chad, I don't want to speak for you, but I believe you are like me, are one who's pro bat flip. But what do you think about bat spike on a walk-off and saying very, very not safe for words being caught on camera to celebrate? I think the best thing about his home run was he wasn't even going around the bases yet when the team just jumped out of the dugout. It was just such a fun moment.
Yeah, I mean, you and I are the same way about Benson, and I got way out over my skis. Before the season, I was all in on Will Benson, and there's a lot of reasons why. He has so many tools, and he showed so many signs last year of being able to put all those together. And so, the spring is the time when hope springs eternal, and so I was like, oh boy, if this guy turns out to be something, it changes everything, and not everything, but it changes a lot. And so. Yes, I took a lot of abuse for hyping him up early in the year, and that's fine because he did not do well. Yeah. But since he's come back, he's sort of the kid works hard and he has all the tools. And I think probably his walk-off home run, probably so far my favorite moment of this year.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he hits that home run and he turns and he's screaming at the dugout, and you can just sort of tell it's just sort of a release for him.
Yeah.
He had taken all this on his shoulders, all the abuse. I'm trying to claim that I took the abuse, but he took a lot of it. And he throws the bat. I love it. And say whatever words you want. It's your first big league home run. And I don't know. I've had some fun moments this year. I think it was my favorite moment, and good for that kid. And if he can become a guy again, that sort of changes what we think about this team, because no one was really expecting him to be one of these guys. And so,
yeah,
I'm a Will Benson fan, and I hope he continues to play better. He's looking really good.
Yeah, I ordered a bunch of the so Topps does the Topps Now baseball cards where it's like they do moments of like big things. So they did it this week. They did a dual card of Elly and Will Benson for being their both big league home runs in the same game. So I got like 10 of those. So those will probably be giveaways in the next couple of months whenever they get in. I'm going to keep a couple for myself, obviously, but
Let me know because I want to get into the contest for a giveaway. I want one of those.
absolutely, absolutely. I'll send you one. You gave me a job here, so you're you're contest free.
Oh, Tim,
You're my
such a
guy.
good guy.
Yeah, you and your brother, you guys are my dudes.
No,
And we
Nate's the worst.
it's because he's a Suns fan, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and then dude, like Matt McClain. I feel like we've just talked about this like 464,000 times, and it's still just as fun. His first walk-off hit, obviously. There was that play today where you could see two shortstops thinking like shortstops when him and Elly were both going after that ball, and like shout out Spencer Steer on that play. Holy moly, to get up and get his foot down the bag in time was so impressive. Also a Rookie of the Year candidate. You can almost make the case that National League Rookie of the Year is like Corbin Carroll and then 4 Reds. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's not silly.
Literally.
Yeah, it's not silly.
Yeah. How do we get here? These guys were good, but even in Nick Krall's fondest dreams, there's no way you could have expected these guys to be this good this soon.
I know.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I don't know. I've been saying forever, I don't really care if the Reds win this year. I've been through so many losing years. I just want it to be fun, and I want to see the kids, and it at least gives us some hope. I don't know. I'm as excited now. I don't remember the last time, frankly, I was this excited about the Reds. And I don't ever remember a time in my life, and we've already established that I'm ancient. I don't remember a time in my life where they've had 4 rookies that are legit potential stars.
I know.
That's rare. So
yeah, because you and I, when we talked on Tuesday, when we compared it to like the Bruce Votto era, it was like those guys all came up year by year by year by year.
Mm-hmm.
Stubbs and Frazier and so on and so forth. And this team was like, how about a couple months? We just bring all these dudes up and we just see what happens. So yeah, I absolutely love it. McClain's just tremendous, man. I do want to move Jonathan D back to leadoff. I know that's a big Twitter gripe right now, but it's one of the few I agree with. I do think that would help the roster. I mean, Elly hitting third does not seem like it would be an issue for this ball club. And, Matt McClain still hitting second, Spencer Steer hitting cleanup,
Well, I think I disagree with you. I think we really need Kevin Newman. We need Kevin Newman.
Oh, forgive me.
As David Bell will do occasionally. No, I don't understand why India's not leading off.
Yeah.
And I frankly, I love India. I want him wherever he is in the lineup. I always want him in the lineup.
Same here.
That's going to be a conversation we're going to have in the coming months. But at first base, at leadoff, he has been his entire career. That's when he took off as a rookie, was when they moved him into the leadoff spot. The dude gets on base, and he's kind of this the guy the team takes their cues from. And so I like having him get on base and then, do the rowing thing at second base when it's a double, and it gets the team going. So I don't understand. It's not that I mind him batting third, but he seems so perfect for first base that I really don't understand David Bell's thinking there.
Yeah, because I'm not the guy of like, I had this conversation with Ken not too long ago. Obscure ex-Reds. If you're not following him on Twitter, he's a fantastic follow. And we kind of talked about like, I think like everyone's like, Tyler Stevens is the catcher. He should hit homers. And we were like, look, I don't care where you play in the field. Like, power does not, like, people always say about Joey, like, well, you're a first baseman, you need to be hitting 40 home runs. It's like, that's a weird, like, complex, like, should Troy Tulowitzki have not hit 35 home runs when he was a shortstop? Should Barry Larkin have never had a 30-30 season because he was a shortstop? Like, and so that was kind of something to me. I was like, that's weird. I don't really understand that, but that's neither here nor there. So like with Jonathan India, yeah, I mean, I'm with you. If Jonathan in the lineup today, okay, we know he's going to give great at bats. He may go for 4, but he's going to make that pitcher work. But there's definitely a thing where I really loved about him hitting leadoff. And, Nick does bring a good point. Like, Jake Fraley's been out of the lineup for a little bit now here and there, kind of struggling with some injuries. And that makes a ton of sense too. When he comes back, maybe you go back to normal. But we're at the point now where it's like, you might have a really good hitter batting 8th for this team. So this is silly. This is so silly.
It is silly. And it's almost like over the last 6 months, or maybe even the last 12 months, everything's kind of gone right for the Reds.
Yeah.
Since that awful start last year and just the horrific way that season turned out, since the trade deadline last year, and I'm sort of formulating these thoughts in real time because I haven't really thought this through. I need to write about it probably at some point, but and get my thoughts down on digital paper. But everything that could have gone right for this team has gone right, and that has never happened for this team ever. And so, I don't know what to predict what's going to happen next because so much of this has been a surprise. It has taken what I thought might happen, and we've moved it up.
Yeah. This time last year, we were having conversations of like, well, where's Tommy Pham going to hit in the lineup? And now we're like talking about like, can we fit Christian Encarnacion-Strand onto the big league roster? And if so, where?
Where do you put him?
What a great segue by me, right? That's
perfect. This is why you get the big bucks.
Yeah, that was pretty solid. So I know this is the next big question that everyone's going to have now that Elly De La Cruz is up. And we're probably going to do this when Connor Phillips lights up the world in AAA. We're going to do this over and over again, which, by the way, is an awesome thing to do. So we're not complaining by any stretch of the matter. This is great. But look, if you're a Reds fan, you know all about what Christian Encarnacion-Strand is doing right now in AAA Louisville. Unbelievable slash line, 17 homers, 46 runs batted in, 19 walks. Has cut down his strikeouts as well. Done a really good job at the plate. And the question now is like, when do you see Christian Encarnacion-Strand? And the other question is, where in the lineup? And we're kind of getting to this point where, like, it almost is interesting because he's a guy who's played corner infield. Spencer Steer lately has been playing a little left field out of the blue. Nick Senzel playing a little left field. A lot of interesting conversations. I think the Reds are also trying to think like, okay, so we're going to get him back. We're going to get him. We're going to get Joey back at some point from the big league roster. We're going to get Nick Senzel back. We're going to get Will Myers back. There's a lot of like different things you can do here. And I know everyone right now is saying like, hey, he needs to be on the team. I just want to make sure I preface that I am, because of the Riverfront, I am actually honored enough to be covering my first AAA Louisville game as a media member on Wednesday. So if the Reds want to call him up Thursday, that's fine. But give me something to watch on Wednesday, please. So I'm not going down there for no reason. All right. But where are you at on the thought process of CES and when/where he'll be on the big league roster?
Boy, this is just again an abundance of awesome problems to have here,
isn't it?
With the Reds, it's crazy, but I mean, the truth is, he probably deserves to be here now.
Yes,
I saw him in the spring, and I was like, "Whoa, this is like." I knew he had talent, but I was like, this guy is maybe better than I thought. And then he had the injury issue, and he started late in AAA. And then since he started, it was like, this guy is ready. And so I think the fact of the matter is, and I always say, well, the Reds have more information than I do. They may know that they may have something they think he needs to work on in AAA, and I will defer to that. They're closer to the situation, but from everything that I can see, he's ready right now. And so then the question becomes, let's say they call him up tomorrow. And I agree with whoever said there. I saw it a moment ago. He's probably going to be up here in the next 2 weeks. Carrick, yes. I think he's here. I think 100% if he doesn't get hurt or anything like that, he's here in Cincinnati. And so where does he play? Well, you find a place, first of all, for a kid that can hit the ball that hard.
Yeah.
I think that he's a first baseman. If Votto's not up yet, I think he's the first baseman here. I don't see him being able to play third better than available options such as, Elly De La Cruz or Jonathan India or Spencer Steer. I think Spencer Steer is probably going to have to really work hard to learn left field. That's probably going to be his future. And he can do it. I mean, Spencer Steer's played some shortstop in the minor leagues. He's athletic. He's not. He's playing first base right now. He's been in left field recently, but he's played mostly first base this year because they've had to have him there, and he's been fine. He's been fine there. So I think Spencer Steer's probably an outfielder long term. Encarnacion Strand is a first base / DH, and there are at bats there. Even when Votto comes back, there are at bats for Encarnacion Strand. You can even plug him in at third occasionally, but I think he's your primary first base / DH. First base until Votto gets back. I'm a Votto guy, so Votto gets first base if he wants it when he gets back, and everybody yells at me about that. But so Encarnacion Strand's a DH at that point. But I think we literally were talking about the Reds having 4 Rookie of the Year candidates. Oh, and there's also Christian Encarnacion Strand who may come up. How are we even having this conversation after a year in which they lost 100 games? I'm happy. Let's just put it that way. I'm happy.
I am too. There's a few things I want to touch on real quick. This segment after this next one, it's going to be a little controversial on behalf of me, and everyone knows where I'm going with it because I've talked about it a million times on air, but really curious to get Chad's thoughts. I mentioned it the other night on our Tuesday show, but I want to really dive into this with you because I know a lot of people disagree with me on it. But first, is Joseph Daniel Votto returning to form? And what I mean by returning to form, look, I know 3-game hit streak is not something people are going to be like, okay, sure, whatever. And he's gotten 1 hit in those games. And I get it all. But this is a guy who is literally going through having his arm basically redone. Just about. And then all this, everything else he's gone through, had to get it shut down, things like that. He's a guy who really cares about his swing. You're starting to see a little bit more of that swing in this second rehab assignment with AAA Louisville. Obviously yesterday had that huge 414-foot homer to dead center, which was pretty nice. He's had 3 walks. He's had some strikeouts there, sure, but he's definitely cutting down on it. And I think that, everyone who's like, well, do you want him taking that bats from Spencer Steer? Do you want him taking a bats from this guy? No, and he doesn't have to in the new National League. And I think that's the beauty of it all. And we're also talking about a situation here where, don't you think this team would love to have this guy? One, they need pop, and we've seen what he can do. He had 33 home runs just 2 years ago. 2, he was the best hitter of the National League in the 2010s. So he's a guy who's kind of been around and done it to kind of have with these young guys. I don't think Joey wants to be referred to as this team's Crash Davis by any means. That's a movie reference for all you out there if you want to check out our movie draft episode, Chad. But it certainly looks like if you watch these AAA games, he's getting a little more comfortable again. He's feeling like himself, and it's been nice. And I'm with you. If he comes back and says, look, I'm playing first, dadgummit, he's playing first.
Yeah, no, a couple things here. First of all, he's looking better. He's obviously getting closer, and I've been interested to watch how he does at AAA because his first rehab stint at AAA was not great, and so he took a break trying to recover more. And I'm with you. When he says he's ready, he's earned the right to have first base. I'm sorry, I know some of you have hated him for years. Some of you are just don't like him now because you think he's too old, and that's fine. I get it. I'm not telling you you're wrong, but I'm saying he's Joey Votto. He's a Hall of Famer. He's probably the best Cincinnati Red I've ever seen at the plate in my lifetime, and so I'm willing to live with him playing first base.
Me too.
The other thing is this: I hate the designated hitter. I've always hated the designated hitter. But now, because it might give Votto a place to play or more spots open in the lineup, I'm starting to think, maybe I was wrong because it helps Votto get back in the lineup.
Yeah.
And I guess there's a third thing as well, which is that we talked about the Elly De La Cruz and Matt McClain and Spencer Steer and potentially Christian Encarnacion Strand, the 4 rookies. Encarnacion Strand will be a rookie when he makes his debut. I kind of love the symmetry of them being able to come up and have Votto to be their sort of elder statesman and teach him, because you hear it all the time. He is well known for taking kids under his wing and talking hitting. And if those guys can learn from Joey Votto, he'll be worth every dime they're paying him, even if he's not Joey Votto, as we've come to expect Joey Votto to be at the plate. So I just kind of love the symmetry of all these kids coming up. And I want Votto there to help shepherd them through these early moments in their career. And so I don't know. I'm excited to see Votto back in a Reds uniform. When he and Elly and McClain and the crew are in the lineup together, I'm gonna get rid of my boycott. I'm gonna be back at Great American Ballpark because I have to see this.
I do too. Yeah. So the last week of the year, they go 2 games to Cleveland to play the Guardians. And my wife's family, I've talked about this quite a bit. They live in the area. So I'm literally going up for those 2 games. Just to kind of go hang out and see, because it might be the last week he plays for the Reds. It very well might be, unfortunately. Which I know. I need sad music. But
I may have to join you. I haven't been to the stadium there in Cleveland yet, so I may need to join you for that.
Oh, dude, they have this like barbecue spot across the street from there called Mabel's. Unbelievable.
You could have stopped at barbecue. Because if there's barbecue, I want to go to the Kansas City series this weekend just because Arthur Bryant's barbecue is probably the best barbecue I've ever had in my life out there in Kansas City. So
that's right. You went to a Royals game this year, didn't you?
I went to a couple. Yes. I saw our old friend Travis Jankowski playing for the Texas Rangers when I was out there.
I saw him play against the Reds this year.
Yeah. I saw Jacob deGrom pitch out there.
Yeah, one of his 4 starts for the Rangers.
One of his 4 starts. Oh, bless his heart. But as we say in the mountains, but fun stadium. If you ever get a chance to go to Kansas City, good stadium.
Yeah, I definitely would love to. I just have a hard time going to a game that's not the Reds. Though I am actually going to see the Guardians in July on my birthday weekend. I'm going up there to see they're playing the Royals, who have this guy. I've been kind of really hinting that I really want the Reds to maybe make a move at, because I don't think he's going to cost them too much at this point in his career. And a lot of people seem to think I'm psycho for this, but I broke it down, Chad, on why I think the Reds need to land the missile back in Cincinnati. And the missile is one Aroldis Chapman. And I can already see the nose popping up any second now. It's okay. Sydney said Amir Garrett. He would be fine. But
I like Amir, but yeah.
Yeah. So this season alone, really got back to striking people out. Really cut down on the walks. Been nice, from where he was last year at the Yankees. His ceiling is still much higher than majority of this team's bullpen. I know this bullpen's been nails. I know they've been nails. But let's be realistic here, guys. He's probably better than 40% of the bullpen right now. Alex Young has been fantastic as a lefty. I absolutely agree. He's been tremendous. But there's nothing in the rules that says you can't have 2 of them. And the only other option would be Reaver Sanmartin, who we have no idea what he is at all. I mean, some nights he looks tremendous. He's rocking an ERA over 7. Also, he's been injured of late quite a bit. And they've also been trying, it's not going to cost him Cam Collier. It's not going to cost him Noelvi Marte. It's not going to cost him Edwin Arroyo. It's not going to cost him any of these guys like it was in years past. It's probably going to cost you your Rhys Hines. You know what I mean? I like Rhys Hines, but in a circumstance here where you're this close in your division, the team who's leading the division just got swept by the worst team in baseball. You have a circumstance there. And as Joe Farfsing said the other night, the Royals have been trying to attach Aroldis Chapman to either Salvador Perez, which, the Reds already have 74 catchers on the big league roster, or Scott Barlow, which Scott Barlow also would look really good in the Reds bullpen if that's the case. So, look, it's a little controversial. I shout out good brother Bryce Spalding. Bryce Spalding also agreed with me and said that he would also be happy to have him back. But where are you on the possibility of, do I think this is going to happen? No, absolutely not. I don't think there's any way in hell Aroldis Chapman comes here on the trade deadline. I highly doubt it. But I would absolutely love it if they were going on a playoff hunt to have that guy come back and be GABP in the 7th inning and face 2 lefties. Bring it on.
I have some thoughts, as you might imagine, because I have thoughts about everything, Tim. Mm-hmm. But I hadn't thought about this this particular thing, until I was getting prepared for our show tonight, and you mentioned that. I understand why some fans would be hesitant. The way he did Cincinnati was not wasn't ideal. The way all that went down,
Right.
But I also can't forget about the fact that, well, listen, on our show earlier this week, we were talking about the Reds debuts that was exciting as Elly, and we talked about Jay Bruce, and we talked about who else did we talk about?
Griffey.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So there were some that we talked about, but my buddy Chris Garber texted me the next day and said, "You didn't even mention when Aroldis Chapman came to Cincinnati." And it was. I think I mentioned Homer Bailey. When Chapman arrived, it was like, it wasn't Elly-like, but it was crazy. And if you were in the stadium when he would come in to pitch in those early days, it was just electric. And those are the moments I love. And so, I don't know. I don't know what I would give up for him. We'd have to talk about what you actually give up. I do like resigns, but I always say these kids, they are valuable to me as a Reds fan only in terms of what they're going to bring to the big league roster at someday. And he's better than a lot of what we have in the bullpen. We do need another left-hander in the bullpen. We absolutely do. And I don't know. I kind of like. I mentioned the word symmetry earlier. I kind of like the symmetry of him coming and maybe finishing his career here and and helping maybe the next good Reds team get across the hump. So he's better than, well, he's better than almost, maybe you said 40%. I think it might be higher than that of the current bullpen. And so I'm all in. Bring it on. Depending on what you have to give up for him.
Right.
But I don't object to it because the Reds absolutely need another left-hander in the pen. And this pen has been good, as you said. I worry that it's kind of,
I'm with you.
They're going to fall off the cliff at some point. We're on borrowed time. And so I would like to see them improve the pen.
The only time someone comes out of the bullpen where I just feel like, okay, is Alexis Diaz.
That's the only one. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not saying like if Aroldis Chapman came here, it would be just like lights out like 2012. I did a thing on the @late Reds Twitter account recently where I compared 2023 Alexis Diaz season to 2012 Aroldis Chapman. Fascinating stuff, by the way. Fascinating stuff. Just how close and how good they both are, obviously. But could you imagine like the 8th inning and you're playing the Cubs and Cody Bellinger comes up and it's like crap, like bring in Chapman. Like you feel pretty good in that at bat, right? Especially with how close the Central is, everything you guys have on the line. And I understand everything with people being like, I don't know, man. Like that was really weird how he left. That whole thing with the Yankees last year where he just didn't show up for postseason workouts. Believe me, I get it. But I also think he understands like this isn't going to last much longer for him. His career is, we're in the twilight of Aroldis Chapman's career, which is psycho to say because he's unbelievable. One of the greatest talents I've ever seen pitch out of the bullpen in my lifetime. But starting getting additional starters might be what you need more of if, maybe it's at least a 5th guy. One of the guys I really like is Kyle Freeland from Colorado because we know they're always going to be terrible. And he's somehow pitched really well at Coors Field. So if that's a guy the Reds could potentially try to get here, I'd be happy with. That's a conversation for another day, though. But thank you for confirming with me that I'm not psycho.
Well, I'm. I talk a lot about the Reds Hall of Fame. Aroldis Chapman is a Reds Hall of Famer. He's a future Reds Hall of Famer. He made 4 All-Star teams in Cincinnati. Whatever you think of him, the guy is good. We're going to have a ceremony one day where he is a Reds Hall of Famer. And so that's why I talk about symmetry. I'm okay with bringing him back because I think what you just said a moment ago is interesting. Him as the setup guy for the current guy, Alexis Diaz, who is a just flat out superstar, and the lefty righty. I think it makes a lot of sense here, and because of his history here, I'm all in. Bring it on.
It might just be my nostalgia talking. I understand that, but I do think he could definitely be helpful to the club. So let's go and talk about what we have coming up this week. Just like a polar opposite of opponents. Just like hilarious how goofy this is. So they start the week in Kansas City playing the Royals. Your pitching matchups are Luke Weaver against former Cy Young winner Zach Greinke, Brandon Williamson against 0-10 Jordan Lyles. Wow. And then you have Ben Lively against Daniel Lynch. What a trio of games of starting pitching baseball there. Oh, and then by the way, you have an off day Thursday and Friday. You got to go against Christian Javier, JP France, and Brandon Bielak, who, by the way, the Astros are getting hot again and look like the defending world champs. But I absolutely love those Friday, Saturday games, not just because it's Andrew Abbott and Hunter Green pitching, but seeing those two against like this, like we talked about a little earlier, this high quality Astros lineup, like this is going to be cool. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I literally want to fly to Houston to see the Friday, Saturday
I'm
games.
all in. You're talking about good barbecue. Ooh, baby.
Oh, there you go. Texas barbecue. But yeah, you look at Kansas City, and I guess that's the team to play if you're going to have Luke Weaver, Brandon Williamson, and Ben Lively pitch. Although, Lively has been better than anyone could reasonably expect. But I don't know. This pitching staff is in a bad spot right now. And so we needed Abbott in the worst way. But Abbott and Green, Friday and Saturday, they give the Reds a chance. And occasionally Luke Weaver's giving the Reds a chance, but Abbott and Green will give the Reds a chance most often. So I could see the Reds, because the Royals are so bad, taking 2 of 3. And then maybe if we take 2 or 3 from the Astros, we're back here next Sunday and we're like, oh my gosh, this is the greatest Reds team in the history of the world.
Call the Angels for Mike Trout. See what they can happen. They're never They're never making the playoffs.
Let's do it.
Yeah. I am you definitely got to get at least 2 or 3 in this Kansas City series because they are really not good. Really not good. Bobby Witt Jr. is awesome. I will watch Bobby Witt Jr. highlights all the time with how good he is. But yeah, James Urban, Jordan Lyles still has a job at 0-10. Shall we remind you some of the guys who started baseball games for the Cincinnati Reds in the 2022 season? It was not this bad, by the way, but pretty rough. Has Luis Cessa pitched for the Rockies yet, like a major league game?
I don't think so, but I do know this. Jordan Lyles would have been the number 2 starter for the 2022 Cincinnati Reds.
Yeah, that's wild to think about. Sidney Price saying Ohtani.
Yes. Go get Ohtani.
What would let's play hypothetical here for just a quick second. By the way, I was going to mention earlier, one of the greatest what ifs in Reds history of all time. What if Ryan Madsen doesn't get hurt in 2012? Aroldis Chapman's a starter going into that season.
I have said so many words on so many podcasts and in so many written words about that exact scenario that I almost cry every time I talk about it.
I know.
If Aroldis Chapman had been a starter, I'm not getting back into this. I can't deal with it. He should have been a starter.
Yes, I'm with you. So yeah. And then finally, our last segment of the night, one of my favorite things to do. I love that you guys care enough about my goofy little show to answer these Twitter questions. But as we know, the All-Star ballot is now open. And for the first time in God knows how long, the Reds actually have multiple guys who could actually be candidates for this. I think, Alexis Diaz is obviously probably the most likely of the group just because he has been nails this year. I think yesterday was his first run he gave up since Empire Strikes Back was in theaters. The original time, not this re-release. But so he's been tremendous. But, Jonathan India just happens to play second base in the National League where there's some really good players ahead of him. I don't think Elly's played enough baseball to get into the All-Star game, though I would not be shocked if Elly De La Cruz is in the All-Star game at some point this year. But with his play, I definitely could see him playing in the Home Run Derby. That would be cool. Spencer Steer, who has just been lights freaking out, like we've talked about all year. I didn't even put Matt McClain on this slide. Silly me. Hunter Green, obviously has the excitement, the electricity. I don't think this season with his ERA being just under 4 is necessarily fully his fault. I think his defense has not helped him out as much. As we've seen, also run support has been laughable when it comes to when he's on the mound. And then Jake Fraley, who has been like a right-handed hitting machine and like is just unbelievable with runners in scoring position this year. So kind of curious for you, because every team, the rule is it's a Selly rule, by the way, that every team gets one representative in the All-Star game. So, whatever. But who is your pick right now at this moment that you would say you would put in the All-Star game representing the Reds?
Well, I love this question. I'm glad we're having a chance to talk about this because every year my editor at Cincinnati Magazine rolls his eyes and lets me write a column about who's going to be the All-Stars, who are going to be the All-Stars for the Reds, because I don't know, since I first started, like my earliest memories of baseball, I loved watching the All-Star game and watching the players line up on the baseline when they were announced and getting so excited when the Reds guys lined up there. And some years it was one, some years it was more than one. So this is something that is kind of meaningless in some sense, but which I still, at my advanced age, care about. And so,
Me too.
I mean, I think Alexis Diaz is the obvious
Mm-hmm.
choice right now. And if he continues like he's been playing, he's probably going to make it, but he may not be the only one. I don't think we should underestimate Elly De La Cruz's chances of making the All-Star team after 1 week in the big leagues, basically. If baseball, if MLB has any sense at all, De La Cruz will at least be in the home run derby.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like this year. I don't know if any of you watched the NBA, but the NBA, one of my friends, actually, his son, they let him in the dunk contest. This is I shouldn't talk about this too much, but one of my former colleagues, his son is Mac McClung.
Really?
Yes, and
I didn't know this.
they let. Yes, this is a good story, but anyway, he wasn't in the NBA at the time. He was a G League guy. They let him in the not the home run derby, the dunk contest, and he won it.
Mhm.
Mac McClung. So, if MLB, even if he's not an all-star, if MLB does not have Elly De La Cruz in the home run derby, then somebody needs to be fired. Heads need to roll because that's a guy that, again, it's kind of like McClung in the dunk contest, a kid who has this skill. Get him in there. Get kids to know about him. So Diaz, number one. I think probably there's a decent chance of Jonathan India. I really think Jonathan India. I want to say Matt McClain the way he's been playing, but Jonathan India, Rookie of the Year, he's playing great. I think Jonathan India. If the Reds get two, Jonathan India is the second guy, and I love it. I'm an India fan. Yeah. So my prediction is right now, Diaz and India are the two Reds All-Stars. I think they'll get two, and those are the two. But any of the guys you have here on the screen, plus Matt McClain, I could see any of them making it. But if I had to put some money on it, it's Diaz and India.
I'm with you. I think India's got a little bit of an uphill battle with the position he plays in the National League, particularly.
True.
But, it also comes down to, the players get to make a vote. The manager gets to make votes. As we all remember, Tony La Russa leaving Brandon Phillips out that 1 year and pissing off the universe. That was pretty unbelievable. Still bitter about that one. What's worse? Okay. And I know we're going here, and this is a conversation that's, but Brandon Phillips being left off the 2012 All-Star team, or Scott Rowland starting the 2011 All-Star game as the seventh alternate at his position.
Well, I don't know which is worse, but to me, because again, you all been mocking my age all night long. To me, it's 1988 when rookie Chris Sabo made the All-Star team. Only two third basemen make the team, and Whitey Herzog, the Cardinals manager, lets Bobby Bonilla play third base the entire game and only lets Chris Sabo pinch run. So I'm sorry. I don't even remember what your question is, but I'm still pissed off about that. So I had to mention it.
But if you remember, that's still better than 98. Brett Boone made it and he didn't play a single play at all in the game.
Outrageous.
Unbelievable. And then he was traded the next year for Michael Tucker.
It's completely outrageous. And the Reds, every Red that ever makes the All-Star team should play every inning of every game.
Agreed.
It's obvious.
Yeah, agreed. That 2012 team was that the year they had like 7 All-Stars? It was like, this rules.
It was amazing.
It was so fun.
I don't know. I love that stuff. And it's
too.
meaningless. It's an exhibition, but I still love it. I want to see those guys lining up along the baseline, wearing their Reds caps.
Yeah, I did too. I made mention of this before we get out of here. I was kind of looking at the schedule, kind of just getting excited about like who's Elly De La Cruz going to share the field with as far as the opposition. One of my favorite young players in baseball plays for the Seattle Mariners by the name of Julio Rodriguez. The Mariners come here in September for a 3-game set. And I'm going to see Julio Rodriguez and Elly De La Cruz on the same field. And that's amazing. That's pretty massive, pretty wonderful.
It is. It is. That's the thing that I kind of love about this sport is that I love the history of the sport. I write about it all the time. I'm just a huge fan of I like the fact that baseball has such a long history that keeps getting replenished in some ways. And the kids coming up, I don't know. It's part of the reason why I love this sport. And I'm with you, man. I love things like that where you see these young hot shots coming up and sharing the field together. And it's the same field where all these superstars have played throughout history.
Yeah.
That appeals to me. And so, yeah, I'm with you, man.
What tribute video in that series do you think we'll cry more at? Luis Castillo's or Gino's? Oh my God. Luis Castillo's, I might like already be crying.
Oh, I'm crying right now for both of those guys, but Castillo is the guy that I thought the Reds should have signed to a 10-year deal.
Same. Luis Castillo, Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, Andrew Abbott.
Whew. Stop it, Tim. I have to go to bed tonight. I have to sleep, and now I'm not going to be able to sleep.
Yeah. Well, I guess I should go ahead and wrap this episode up. Dude, thank you so much for filling in and hanging out tonight on short notice. This was just such a fun week. And I got to do two episodes with you this week. Like, if you had told 20-year-old Tim Daniel he could do 2 podcasts with Chad Dotson, he would have been like, yeah, okay, whatever. Chad just unfollowed me on Twitter. But it's really cool, man. And like I say every week, I absolutely love being part of the Riverfront. This is like my favorite thing I get to do every week. And hang out with all of you wonderful people who talk about the Reds with me and laugh at my ridiculousness, like playing music from Coming to America and Limp Bizkit. You just make this a blast for me, so I appreciate everything. Yeah, next week, I'll go ahead and get the top again. So next week is Father's Day. I will be live like regular, but I want you guys to send me, because I love sharing these stories, these open conversations I have with you all, some of your best Father's Day, whether it's your dad itself, your father figure in your life, just your parent, just baseball moments. I would love, if you're comfortable sharing those with me, I would love nothing more than do a whole segment where we talk about those next week. So please send those my way. Thank you guys so much for being such an active chat tonight. This was so fun. I cannot wait to talk to you all next week. And just for the sake of, before we get out of here, so I didn't forget it. Have a good night, everyone.